This is the Organizational Health Advantage podcast with Keith Hadley and James Felton, principal consultants at Table Group. They're in the business of coaching leaders to build strategic focus and cultural alignment that leads to amazing results. This podcast is for leaders who are looking to increase productivity and morale while decreasing politics, confusion, and unwanted turnover. Welcome to the Org Health Advantage.
Hello and welcome to the Org Health Advantage podcast, where we discuss and dissect what makes great leaders, high-performing teams, and great organizations. Today, we'll be discussing the vision for organizations and leadership teams, specifically focusing on setting a 3-year vision and how to best go about doing that. So I'm here with Keith Hadley. Let's get started talking about these 3-year visions. Keith, as you know, we're going to talk about vision. And this is an exercise we both do with our clients to help them get aligned on where they want to be in about 3 years. Some companies will try it, looking at 2 years, other companies 5 years, but I think 3 years is that sweet spot. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I think the danger is overextending yourself and getting this confused with purpose. We've already answered the question, why does this company exist? Now we're just trying to answer the question, what does this look like in 3 years, right? Yeah. Super practical, super simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we like to do with our clients is what we call the Everest exercise. And we ask them to map out, 3 years from now, you've climbed this mountain. What does your company look like? And Keith, why don't you talk about a couple of the things we ask them to think about?
Yeah, so just visually, if you picture like a flip chart or a whiteboard, up in the top right corner, you see a little mountain peak with shrouded in fog. And we just ask some really simple questions like, 3 years from now, what would we expect to see? And like, how about our revenues? What are our revenues going to be? Okay, 100 million, great. How many employees will we have? 150. How many do we have today? 50. Okay, great. So we're going to triple in size. Okay, what else? What kind of customers are we going to have? What markets are we going to be in? Physical locations, how many plants? How many geographic regions are we going to serve? And we just keep peppering them for just give us a quick factual snapshot, a picture of the future in sort of hard conceptual terms or hard factual terms. And then maybe a couple of conceptual ones, like what are our competitors saying about us in 3 years? What are our customers saying about us in 3 years? But just gathering these facts, just a little cloud of facts and ideas around the mountain peak.
Yeah. So it could be revenue, profits, locations, employees, products, markets.
Events, often it's like, hey, in 3 years, we want an IPO.
Yep. Events. Absolutely. That's great. And what I like to do is put that flip chart up on like the right side of a conference room wall. Yep. And then let's answer all those same questions for current state.
Yeah. Like company by the numbers today. And often it's great because you see somebody like the finance guy or the engineer, and they have like their calculator out and they're trying to figure out like, all right, we're like, okay, that's good, but keep it simple. Like, don't overthink this.
Yeah.
This is order of magnitude. Okay, I was with a client last week and they realized they're going to add 1,000 people in the next 3 years. I just did simple math. Let's take 1,000 divided by 36 months. Yeah. So you're going to be adding this many people. In fact, I think it was more like 1,400 or 1,500. And I was like, so on average, you're going to be adding about 40, 50 people a month? And they're like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah, we need to get our recruitment engine going like now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's great. And so I love that put the current state flip chart on the left side of this conference wall, giving some space, but allowing people to see where the company is now and where we have identified we want the company to be in 3 years, and think about what's that gap? How do we fill that gap?
Yeah.
And then using our thematic goal model to get there. Yeah. And with that 3 years, if you just divide it up into 2 thematic goals a year, you're looking at 6 thematic goals. But what's that first one? And maybe what's that second one? Yeah. And companies that have done this really well, like Grade A's or WDS, they then have this, roadmap that when you look at it at that 3-year mark, you look backwards and see all these thematic goals. They seem really smart and intuitive. But what this thematic goal process does is actually let you be agile through it. So you can think about, all right, that first thematic goal, since we're using Everest, let's get to base camp 1 and reassess where we are.
Yeah.
How are we making progress to that Everest or that 3-year vision? And then let's think about thematic goal number 2. What do we need to accomplish in this next 6-month hike?
Yeah.
And those companies always say, like, boy, we seem so strategic, but really what we gave ourselves was the ability to be agile and plan accordingly, keeping that vision in mind.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. Is that the primary purpose of this is about aligning the team around a common picture of the future. Paul Stancic, who's at Parker Gale, a private equity firm in Chicago, wrote a terrific article. He calls it Company 1 and Company 2. And in between is the executive team. And they're standing in that gap between these 2 companies that they manage, the one they have today and the one they're trying to get to. And this is less about trying to then specifically map out our 2-year goals and 3-year goals that will base our incentive compensation structures on. No, it's not that. This is about aligning a team around a common sense of where this is all going. And every time we've done this, our clients have made discoveries like, oh, we are not giving enough attention to, like the example I already gave, our recruitment engine, or we are not, if we're going to have 4 new product lines in 3 years, that means like we better have 1 in the pipeline right now. And so what is that? And are we resourcing it enough? So yeah, that's a great visual. And the goal is just to keep it simple, keep it high level, keep it practical.
Yeah. One of my favorite examples of this was when you and I were working with Dr. Squatch.
Yeah.
And they had done the pre-work to think about, again, revenue, profit, products, all that. And they put some numbers up there and they looked back at that Everest flip chart and said, I don't know if we could get there. Like, those are pretty aspirational. And you and I looked at them like, wait, look at the progress you've made over the last 2 years. You guys are going to crush this. In fact, we don't think those numbers are high enough. And in actuality, they probably weren't.
Yeah. Especially for early stage, high growth, fast growth companies.
Yeah.
We often see that there's stages that you go through. There's life stages of the business, and so whether it's the early stage of like founder centric to then team centric, right? Founder centric, it's all about the idea of the product. Team centric, it's all about getting a team in place. And then you kind of move into like function centric. And when you look at that Everest, you start to see how this shift of emphasis is going to start to occur here around the 3rd base camp or here around the 4th or 5th base camp. Like, we're going to have to start putting in some policies and procedures and structures, but not yet. That's on the horizon. Like, that's down the road a piece. I think it frees teams up to think about the things that are really immediate right now, and gives them permission to put some things further down the road and not worry about them right now until we get this part nailed. So the base camp analogy is awesome.
Yeah. And in thinking about this, the reason I think you and I really like this Everest vision exercise is because we've realized over time that if you don't have that, you can make improvements, but those improvements aren't necessarily all going in the same direction,
right?
With the same end in mind. And having that vision, doing that exercise allows you to keep blazing this trail to this end in 3 years. And it keeps you really focused on the things that are going to help you get there, as opposed to just making these little one-off improvements in the organization that will be helpful, yet just not focused.
James, I just had this insight as you were saying this. A big part of our table group process is thematic goal. And the power of a thematic goal is just undisputed.
Yes.
Like, what is most important right now? That's the answer to question 5. What this allows us to do as a nice parallel thought experiment is to recognize that over the next 3 years, there's going to be some significant shifts. And I was just thinking about different clients, like the theme of the next 2 years or 1 year is going to be like product improvement, product growth, or a go-to-market strategy, or diversification of customers. Or it's like, hey, in here, it's got to be about operational efficiency. How are we going to scale operations to meet up with growth? Or there's going to be like a major push for market share followed by a major push for EBITDA, efficiency and profitability. I think it helps. Maybe it's just because I'm sort of a big picture conceptual guy to begin with, but I love to see teams start to wrestle with kind of the grander movements or the progression of thematic goals.
Right.
And I think you said this earlier, the temptation is to say, well, we're going to be able to plan out every thematic goal from now until Everest. That's not how it works. We might for sure have clarity on this thematic goal. We have a sense of what the next and maybe the next, but then it goes behind the fog. And so we have conversations, but we're always going to have this rolling Everest conversation about where this is all headed. And I think that gives teams the clarity they need without trying to artificially paint a step-by-step roadmap that we're going to follow, because that's never going to happen.
Right. And in fact, when you climb Everest, that doesn't happen either.
Right, exactly.
You get to a base camp and you reassess everybody's health, your supplies, the weather, and the actual trails, because it's so busy on the mountain these days that you have to assess which trail is going to be most productive for you to take. And then you get to the next base camp and you do the same thing. Assess everybody's health, supplies, weather, trails, and so you can never plan out exactly how you're going to get to the top of Everest because there's just so many things that are changing. But you do know you want to get to the top of Everest.
Yeah. I just remember it as you were saying that when we were with WDS, we had a great conversation where this thing got a little bit more enriched in a very productive way. So first of all, we painted a really clear picture of Everest, right?
Right.
Ben Winfrey just did a great job of saying, this is where I see this company going. This is what I see our potential as being. And then we started thinking about just the construction industry. It's like, all right, hey, let's just make a list. Let's be honest. What are things that we do not control? Like, we don't control the economy. We don't control interest rates. We don't control what some of our largest clients are going to do, how fast they're going to grow, et cetera, et cetera. We had a long list just to acknowledge, here's factors that we need to be paying attention to as we go up this progression of base camps. And then it was fun to say, okay, but what are the things that we actually do control? Well, we control our sales process. We control operations. We control hiring. We control our prices. We control our quality, and then it was like, you could see the spirits of the team lift again. Like, yes, that's right. We do have managerial control over all these factors. And somehow just seeing all that in one place, I think gave everybody a little bit of like confidence and excitement and context around, back to question 5. Okay, in light of all of that, what's really most important right now? And let's just dive into this next 3 to 6 months of good work with that broader context. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember that. That was so true and so powerful for that group.
Have you had clients ask you like, hey, can you come in and do a strategic plan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, like, is what we're talking about, is it strategic planning? What do you think?
I think it absolutely is.
Okay.
It's, with the idea and the ability to be agile and change things.
Yeah. I think I would say like it accomplishes what a strategic plan is intended to accomplish. But if you laid that out, a lot of folks would say, well, that's not strategic planning. Like, where's your competitor analysis? And
I think you could act, and we actually did this with a client recently when developing that Everest, we looked at what competitors were doing.
Yeah.
And we looked at potential opportunities in the marketplace, things that we should be keeping in mind. But it didn't need all the detail that some people think.
Right.
Because what we're really doing is thinking about what we want to be 3 years from now.
Yeah. So to be fair, this is not going to provide enough detail for like a strategic plan that you would show potential investors.
Right.
It's not going to be your business plan with, attached Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
What this is, though, is I think it actually is your strategic plan. You know why you exist.
Yep.
You know what you do. You know how you're going to succeed. You have a good picture of the future that you've aligned around. And then you've mapped out what the next 6 months focus is going to be in light of that Everest. And then question 6, of course, is then you've mapped out, well, who's going to be doing what? Like, do you really need more of a plan than that? I think that's enough.
I don't think so. So. Having that 3-year vision keeps you on track, and then utilizing the thematic goal exercises keeps you, making progress with the ability to reassess. When you hit that base camp, you get to reassess the market. You get to reassess, what's going on with employees. Maybe you made more progress, maybe you made less progress than you thought you would. All right, let's come up with a thematic goal that has all that in mind.
Yeah. Gary Gray, who leads Gray Days outside of Atlanta, Alpharetta area, he sent us once a picture that showed, I think it was 12 or 13 thematic goals put into progression, looking historically. And he framed each one like retired jerseys in their corporate office. And I think now you look at where he's taken his business, they more than doubled, tripled in sales. And you look at that progression and you say, man, he was a genius. And he would be the first to say, like, oh, no, let me be clear. We were making this up one step at a time. Yeah. Right. But in retrospect, it's true. It's like, wow, that was a progression of really good thematic goals that put his company in the best position to succeed for he and his employees, who are all owners of the business. And so, in retrospect, it looks genius. Looking forward, it just looks proactive and strategic and thoughtful.
Yeah, exactly. We just had the Super Bowl, and it's almost like that. You have some ideas of what's going to work. You want to win the Super Bowl, but at halftime, you're reassessing.
Yeah.
Okay, they're doing this to stop us. We've got this advantage over here. It's worked out well. Let's keep leveraging that. Let's, get away from the run up the middle a little bit, those types of things. And so this vision, this 3-year Everest vision, we know where we want to be, but we give ourselves the ability to be thoughtful and planned in 6 months increments with the thematic goal.
Yeah. And I think probably take a few minutes on every single offsite, or maybe an hour every offsite, and just review it. Where are we on this progression?
Absolutely.
So here's a provocation. If somebody's listening to this, we'd love to hear, send us a picture of what your Everest looks like. Do one for yourself, do one for your family, right? Why not? Hey, how do the next 3 years look?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's great advice. So, all right. Again, Everest is a vision, a flip chart with where you think you want the company to go, obviously utilizing the team's input, where you want to be in 3 years. Use another flip chart to identify current state against that, and then use the thematic goal idea to plan out where you're going to be every 6 months. And once you get there, do another thematic goal for the next 6 months, keeping that Everest flip chart in mind as you go. All right. Thanks so much. And we look forward to having you on the Leadership Forum podcast next time.
Thanks for listening to the Org Health Advantage. Your hosts, Keith and James, are helping leaders change the world of work and invite you to share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. For more resources on building stronger teams and organizational health, check out tablegroup.com.
Produced by Audavita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.